Welcome to How I Got Here, hosted by seasoned educator Jeremy Proper. This is a podcast of conversations with his former students discussing their journey from middle school to where they are today. Guests highlight their successes and the life lessons learned along the way. And now let's welcome the host, Jeremy Proper.
Welcome to How I Got Here with Mr. Proper. I will be talking to former students who will tell their story of their personal journey from Mr. Proper's class, aka Club 128, to where they are now. Everyone has a different path to get to where they are now, and that path may just be the beginning to where they actually want to be. In these podcasts, I hope to tap into the journeys that my former students have taken. Also, for them to share their experiences with my current students, and for that matter, anyone else who is interested in seeing how hard work in and out of the classroom actually pays off. Let's welcome today's guest, Connor Bradley. Welcome, Connor.
Hey, Mr. Prophet. Thanks so much for having me. Happy to be on.
Thank you so much for coming on. And
of course, wouldn't miss for the world.
Oh, I so appreciate it. And what's great with this new technology, Connor, where are you?
I'm calling in from New York.
New York City, the Big Apple, the place I grew up right near. I love New York.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do now is I want you to take about, 3 to 5 minutes to briefly introduce yourself. Please include when you left Don Estridge and where you went to high school, then college, post-college, and what you're currently doing now.
Totally. Yeah, I can do that. So background, I'm a South Florida native. I was born in Weston, so Everglades territory for you South Florida people listening. And then I grew up in Boca for most of my life. Went to Boca Raton Elementary School. Enjoyed my time there, and then I think school had some type of connective program with Don Estridge at the time, where I guess there was a kind of a track from Boca L into
it's
Don
called
Estridge.
a feeder school.
Yeah, so I guess Boca L was a feeder school of Don Estridge at the time. I don't know if that's still the case, but so felt like a pretty natural choice to end up there. Don Estridge was I don't know, there's a lot of buzz around that as elementary schoolers talking about where we were going to middle school. It seemed like a lot of people were going there. So I went. That would have been in 2009 probably. Went there all 3 years, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And 8th grade, I was fortunate enough to learn U.S. history from yours truly, Mr. Proper.
Oh, thank you.
And then from there, I had a few kind of forks after Don Estridge that I wanted to pursue for high school. My number one, had you asked me in the 8th grade, it would have been the Dreyfus School of Performing Arts.
Nice.
That was kind of my angle at the time, and really what I wanted to pursue, because I had done drama throughout my 3 years at Don Estridge and also in elementary school, but wasn't in the cards. Whoever auditioned me didn't think I had it in me, which may have worked out for the better, because I actually ended up going to FAU High, which at the time was a relatively new school. It was probably less than 10 years old, but presented a really cool opportunity to go to this new campus, new school. And the whole selling point is that you're taking college classes from your sophomore year of high school onwards. So that was a really cool experience, not only educationally, but I also met a lot of lifelong friends that I've stayed in touch with. I had the opportunity to pursue a lot of extracurriculars. That's where I really started to get into basketball. I started playing in middle school, but really got super serious about it in high school. And then enjoyed my time at FAU High School. And as college admissions time rolled around, I knew I wanted to be somewhere where I was going to continue to be challenged educationally, but I also wanted to keep that basketball piece rolling. And I kind of discovered in waves that, maybe it was freshman year of high school, I realized I wasn't going to the NBA. And then it was
as most people do.
And then it was sophomore, junior year, realized, you know what, I might not even go Division I. So I ended up kind of looking at this cross section of schools that were, high academic, but also Division III athletic, which is, not where, not the NBA stars aren't going through.
It happens, but it's very rare.
Yeah, through these programs. And so what that kind of crosshair was for me was MIT up in Boston, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Was able to introduce myself to the coach through like recruiting camps. Had a few conversations with him, took my tests, crossed my fingers, and was fortunate enough to get the nod. And then off to Boston I went. Spent 4 years there, had a great time, played basketball for 3.
I have to interject, Connor. I forgot. How tall are you? 6'3", 6'4"?
I'm 6'3" and a half doctor's orders, but I'll tell everyone except the insiders to this podcast 6'4".
That's hilarious. That's awesome. I just know I can see the kids going, okay, he plays basketball, but how tall is he? Like, that's what they want to know. Get to the point.
Yeah. Well, there you are. 6'3" and a half doctor's orders.
Nice.
But yeah, had a phenomenal time at MIT. Learned a bunch. Met again, just phenomenal people that I to this day am living with. And then graduated in May of 2020, right in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic.
Pandemic graduation, everyone's favorite.
Still, I guess we're going back to walk across the stage like this at this coming graduation in 2022.
Fingers crossed. Yes.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, we'll see what the Delta variant says about that.
Exactly.
But yeah, so.
And what are you currently doing now? What are you doing for a living? What's your job? What pays the bills?
So now I'm a consultant. I'm a strategy analyst for a firm called Accenture.
Yes.
Essentially, I think the best way to describe consulting as an industry is we're kind of like change management help for businesses. So like if a business is buying a company, if they're considering like
acquisition.
If they're having an acquisition, merging with another company, or if they're like considering a new product line, or just really any decision around their business, and they want kind of an outside perspective, an outside opinion, they'll bring in someone like my company, Accenture, to kind of help them figure out the best way to implement it, the best way to go about it, the best strategy to have overall.
Nice. And what did you graduate college with a degree in?
Yeah, so I studied electrical engineering and computer science. So that was a little more hard technical, lot more equations, a lot more math.
Sure.
This is a more kind of businessy feel that I'm doing on the day to day.
Was that a difficult transition from your educational experience to this job? Were you like, whoa, I'm not really educationally prepared for this, but I know I can do it?
So I think the good thing about consulting, and you'll see this I think in a lot of professional services industries, like banking for example is another one, where I think the emphasis is less on what you knew coming in versus what you can pick up on the job.
Good point.
And so it's good in that way, in that you've I work with people from so many different backgrounds, whether it be chemical engineering or English or political science, and to have all of those really varied perspectives kind of coming together on one team is it.
What do you think was a bigger help? Was it the engineering degree, or was it the fact that you earned it from MIT, or a combination of both?
Yeah, so I'd say to be fair, I think, and to be honest, like there's a lot of like emphasis that's placed, whether that's right or wrong, it's emphasis that's placed on where you go for certain industries. Like it's an ugly truth of like a lot of companies that
sure, they want to know that you went to a top-notch, top-tier school like MIT, Harvard, Brown, Princeton, Yale, something like that, right?
Yeah, and yeah, that's an unfortunate aspect of a lot of industries. But one thing I will say about one industry that I admire, that's like very meritocratic, or like they don't really care where you come from. They care what you can do and what skills you bring to the table.
Yeah,
is tech, and I've seen a lot of success stories of people coming from
me too,
not those traditional stuffier backgrounds.
Right. As long as you know how to do it and you can prove that you can, that's all that really matters.
Exactly, and so that's why I'm a big proponent, and Ms. Proper, we were talking about this right before we kind of went live, but, telling my cousins coming up the pipeline right now, I'm like, I'm saying, forget about where you were going. Like, you have in this particular industry, if you're studying computer science, you're studying something heavily technical, it's about getting those skills down pat and then being able to demonstrate that in interviews.
Because in most of those interviews, it's a hands-on interview. They're asking you to perform the task in front of them. And if you can do it, it doesn't matter if you went to MIT and learned it, or if you went to whatever technical college that is not MIT, that they're going to go, well, you still know how to do it. It's like calculus is still calculus and
Absolutely.
Algorithms are still algorithms. It doesn't matter where you learned it.
Yeah, no, I think, and what allows tech to do that is like, it's less about like impressing clients and like in relationship management. It's more just like, look, we have a job to do and let's do it. And so then they want the best engineers and the best like thinkers. And so like we've said, it's about how you can do it, not where you learn to do it.
For sure. Well, first off, again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and telling my students about your life and experiences. And you've already gone very well in depth into what you've done, where you came from, where you went, and where you are now. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there going, wow, this is incredible. This kid started off doing basketball and now all of a sudden he's working in New York City. That's incredible. I mean, that is a path, that is a place. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. So with your learning, how did you get inspired for learning? I've heard a whole bunch of really cool stories. If there's something that stands out to you about when the light bulb went on about like, I'm really interested in this, when did it happen and what was it? Like, how did it happen?
Yeah, so I think it kind of was like, it happened twice for me at like different points in my lives, and I only really have my parents to thank for this. Is one, my mom just at this age was like, so diligent and persistent in like kind of putting me on a good educational platform and like, running the alphabet with me at whatever age it was that was, before I'd like gone to, I don't even remember when I learned the alphabet. That whole timeline is blurred.
Probably before preschool. She was at home preschool with you and she was like, okay, it's mommy son time and I have all this time together, and maybe she wasn't working or she was home with you and she's like, I'm going to teach this kid the ABCs, and you just ran with it.
Yeah, exactly. And to her credit, I guess to her credit, like I definitely did not run with it. It required like a lot of persuasion.
Yes.
I don't think it's something I really just picked up and ran with, like you say. It was
okay.
It was.
So it wasn't like mom went to Whole Foods and was like, "Hey Connor, A is for apple, B is for banana."
Yeah, no, it was like we're gonna sit down here until we've read one chapter of this, and then we'll go screw around. Like,
right, exactly. Fine. Okay,
so
fine.
Very reluctant, very foot dragging, but I'm tremendously grateful that she had that attitude, because that kind of like, put me in a position so that when day one of pre-K or kindergarten hit, it was, it was kind of like smooth sailing.
Right. You felt like the smartest kid in the class because it's like, I already know my ABC, suckers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was, I don't think it, it was just like, I guess, a good intro. And so that it allowed those later stages to also be good. But then
it sounded like mom had a lot of patience too.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And then I think that like the second phase of like kind of falling in love with learning and education was when like high school came around. I think my dad was a great voice in the back of the head, kind of just
your own personal Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah. Who was kind of just like, he wasn't like trying to like push a particular direction for study. But because I was like going into FAU High and like, could be thinking about a degree at like an earlier age, he was just like, I think trying to float ideas as often as possible, and in the hopes that something would stick with me eventually.
Yeah, he was trying. He was just throwing stuff out there and hoping something would stick. Exactly. Like, come on, kid. You got to do something with your life. You're not living in my proverbial Florida basement for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I think he did that in like in a very good way. And so I'm so blessed to have had both of those kind of experiences.
That's awesome. That's amazing that you had two parents like that.
Yeah, as guardrails in my educational life. But yeah, and I think that set me up for later chapters as well.
Do you feel like there was a teacher that did that for you? Like once the parents were inspirational, then it was able to be like a teacher that maybe was helpful to guide you again towards this engineering idea, or maybe there was a teacher that made math. Like all of a sudden you went, wow, I really like math. Like I never thought I did, but now I do. Did that ever happen?
Oh yeah. And now that you now that you say it, I'm kicking myself for not having said this earlier. I had a fourth grade teacher at Boca L. His name was Mr. Wiles, and I don't know what it, I don't know if it was anything about his teaching methods or the way he approached teaching himself. But Mr. Wiles, I think, was the first person that the first teacher that I think successfully converted their classroom to a home away from home. Like he was the man. Like he showed such an interest in not only our lives as students and how we could perform better on the FCAT or the next vocabulary test, but interested in just how we got along with one another in the class and how we were feeling. I'll never forget. It was one day in the middle of the school year in fourth grade, and he was a big surfer, and he was like, Connor, I've really appreciated the work that you've been doing in my class. I'd love to take you out surfing sometime if that interests you.
Yeah.
And I was just that is unreal. Like I've never heard of a teacher. A teacher. Yeah.
Surfs.
Putting that on the table and
yeah. I didn't know I had that opportunity. Otherwise, I would have worked harder early.
I would have been surfing every weekend.
Exactly, man. That would have been great. I'm hanging out with this surfing awesome teacher. This is tremendous. So did you go? Did he take you?
So we didn't go surfing, unfortunately, because it's flat as a pancake. His words exactly.
Oh.
So he didn't fire off the text, but
no waves.
I'll never forget that offer. And
it made a huge impact on your life.
It sounds so weird now saying it. It's like, oh, that one time I didn't go surfing with my fourth grade teacher is what to talk about in this format.
Yeah, but it made such a difference in your life. And that's the whole thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters that it is. It happened. Mm-hmm. Somebody did it. They pushed your buttons for you to go, holy moly, my hard work pays off. This guy noticed. I was working for him to notice. He did. And he offered to do something I never would have thought of in a million years. And here's the best part. You're 24 years old and you're not pissed that it didn't happen. You're actually grateful just for the fact that you had the opportunity.
Yeah, nail on the head. I think I guess it's like you just put it, it kind of cements the cycle of it's you work hard, you achieve something, and then there's a payoff to it.
And that was it.
That little arc.
Yeah.
I think from Mr. Wiles, it might have been what did it for me, that, kind of set off this chain reaction of
but I love the fact that it didn't happen. That's what makes the story even better.
Yeah.
You earned the reward, but because it was flat as a pancake and there were no waves, but you weren't you could have gone the other way to the dark side, Luke Skywalker. You could have been oh man, this guy screwed me over. He told me I was going to do something. We didn't do it. I worked hard. I got nothing. But you didn't take that. You used the word several times in the interview, a fork. You were at the fork. You could have taken PO'd Connor Road, or like you did, happy that this guy went so far out of his way to do something, even though it never came to fruition. But still, you took the positive out of that, and that needs to be commended. That is amazing.
Yeah. And shout out to Mr. Wiles, I think, for just being really innovative in the way that he saw a way to like incentivize
Yes.
kids
Education.
to be excited about education, and yeah, that was
Yeah,
phenomenal.
he would have been taking the holistic approach where he's going around the whole student. It's not just education, it's also interest. It's also the hook. How do I get them involved and into it? Here's a reward for your positive behavior. For some people, it's money. For other people, it's the movies. For some people, it's ice cream. Here, this guy throws out, let's go surfing. And you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's
And then I'm sure it made you work harder. And you were like, what else might I be able to get? Like, how else can I work harder? How else can I show this guy you have made a difference in my life? And now you've put it out there for the universe to hear. That is
totally.
tremendous. If you could turn back time and tell your 8th grade self some advice, what would you tell 8th grade Connor?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I guess this one's kind of a funny one, but I think also is important. I think that in middle school, there's like a lot of incentives that you might be like seeking, like whether they be social or like extracurricular or like educational. Like, oh, I want to like hang out instead of do homework because then I'll get a bunch of like social gratification from hanging out and being with friends and chilling. And that's an incentive that might go against my educational incentive, and it's tough to balance. But I think by the time you get to middle school, you know what the good incentives to chase are, but you haven't necessarily been around long enough to really see them develop and see them kind of like reach fruition. And so like a concrete example I have of that is there was a girl in middle school that I was infatuated with. You probably know her, Mr. Proper. I don't know if you know Hallie Faber.
Oh, yes, of course.
I was infatuated with her, and like, through all 3 years. And then when it came time to pick high schools, I was considering going to like FAU High was my number one choice at that point, but I hadn't locked it in. And she went to another high school, I think was G Star. It was like
Yes.
another performing arts school similar to Dreyfus.
Right.
And
you were considering going there just because?
I was about to risk it all.
No, you pushed the chips. Almost pushed the chips in the center. I almost
pushed the chips into the center. I was like, this girl, like, it's meant to be. Like,
that's fantastic.
I gotta go to G Star. This is where I'll be the happiest.
This is going to be Mrs. Bradley.
Let me tell you, that would not have been the right choice. I had a great life going to FAU High. We actually, the first formal I ever went to in college, I took Hallie because she went to Brandeis, which was which is 20 minutes outside of Boston.
It's right there. Yes.
And she came to the formal. We connected, we laughed. It was a good time, but I think both of us realized that like
this wasn't the love connection meant to be.
Or maybe she didn't realize anything because she didn't think anything of it.
Oh, she didn't figure it out. That's funny.
I was like, okay, G Star not choosing G Star was the right move. FAU High was for me.
I cannot thank you enough for opening up into that personal experience and saying how you were willing to push it all into the middle for someone and then realize later, thank goodness I didn't do that.
Yeah.
That was not the right decision to be made.
Yeah, and I think in the back. Also, sorry, there's a fire truck.
No, it's New York City. I wouldn't expect anything less. Come on, that shows you're really in New York City, man.
Yeah.
He's not lying in his parents' basement in Boca, like, making noises.
Yeah, on the little noise machine.
Funny. So you would tell your 8th grade self what?
Follow the incentives that you know deep down will pay off. Like, because I knew when like thinking about that, I said like, Connor, that's probably not the most like sustainable or like like healthy decision to make.
Right.
But I don't know, I feel like you just when you're in middle school, your world is at Don Estridge was like 1,200 kids.
Yes, exactly.
Like your world is that world, and so when
that moment.
When you think about like a world outside of that, even though like on paper it exists, there's 7 billion other people you're sharing the planet with, but
sure,
when you think about the world that you've grown up in the past 3 years kind of all coming apart, like some of that logical decision making might kind of go through the window, and then you almost go to a high
Yeah, but
school that
you
that
got to
really.
give yourself credit, buddy. You're an eighth grader making a pseudo, I hate to say it, adult decision.
Mhm.
You could have been like, I'm in eighth grade, I'm following my heart, and that's it. And then ninth grade, you would have been like, all right, I asked her out, she said no, and now I'm stuck at G Star. What am I going to do?
Mm.
And you realize maybe that wasn't it. And to be honest, that's a heck of a mature decision to be able to say as an eighth grader, because sometimes the heart speaks louder than the mind and makes us do things that probably aren't the wisest decision. And you did the complete opposite and realized at 14, this probably isn't the wisest decision. And no, and that's commendable, especially at that age.
Yeah.
So speaking of school, since you've gone to such challenging schools, what was your most challenging educational experience and how did you overcome that challenge?
Um, that's a good question as well. I'll say this, and I think this is speaks to the kind of institution that they've got going on over at FAU High. I think that first year, which a lot of times they described as your like boot camp, your academic boot camp,
Sure.
was probably the biggest challenge of my academic career, because it was such a punch in the jaw. Like there's like a lot of nights in my freshman year of high school where I was like, just crying, like drowning in work, because they like, I think they recognize that once they let the reins go, and like metaphorically, and sophomore year and onward, you're kind of making your own decisions as to what classes, how often you study, etc.
Right.
So I think that's
Because you're truly having the college experience in high school, and most 18-year-olds aren't ready for it, much less 15 and 16-year-olds.
totally. And so I think they did take a good approach to say, like, look, we got to instill some real habits and work ethics in these kids to give them that kind of autonomy. And it was definitely tough. But what I think really allowed me to kind of balance out was two things. One was looking for other ways to involve myself in a community and spend my time, so I wasn't just nose between a book 24/7.
But the community that you're in is a little difficult because this is what I try to explain to the students, but I've never done it. So I need to ask you, since you have. How did you feel being a 16-year-old in classes with 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds? Like, did you let them know how old you were? Did you hide that? What was your experience? Like, were you just kind of like, all right, I'm pretty smart and I'm just going to kind of hang in the back because I don't want anybody to know I'm 16 years old?
Yeah, I think it was definitely the latter. It was a lot of like no one really wanted to out themselves as like a high schooler, because you get a lot of weird looks and maybe like preferential treatment from your classes or your professors as a result. So it was a lot of times, yeah, it was like we'd all like sit together in classes, but
right. You'd congregate together, but then what was your outside experience? Were the college kids accepting of you? Because reality is, I try to explain it to kids in class this way, and please tell me if I'm wrong. This is your high school experience. This is their actual college experience. So to them, they're like, well, wait a second, they're so much younger than I am, and I'm an adult basically, and they're still in high school. So it's like there's that friction. It has to be there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's part of the reason that like a lot of us wanted to keep it on the down low, is because I think I definitely had classmates who were more upfront and like,
didn't go well.
They wanted to share that, and then I think it just was always like maybe on group projects or like in seminars, like was met with like a little bit of awkwardness maybe.
Sure. So you realized I'm gonna keep that one under my hat, and I'm not saying nothing because that didn't go well.
You're at that. You're doing that not to like have the high schooler in a college classroom experience, but you're doing it to have the college classroom experience. So
yeah,
the less things you can do, less like levers you can play with in that scenario to just get the true college experience, I think the better.
Sure.
And then I'll also say that like it ended pretty starkly. The experience ended pretty starkly, like at like outside of academia. Like I wasn't hanging out with any of these college kids. That wasn't
right. They weren't your new best buds.
Yeah, no, we weren't going back to the quad to throw a frisbee.
Exactly. So along with this, since you're obviously taking very, very difficult classes, like you clearly said, you were up late at night, pulling your hair out some nights, like, oh my God, what am I doing to myself? When was there Connor time? Like, how did you disseminate, okay, I need to study this amount of time, but I still need to be a cognizant, sane human being. I need to go to the movies. I need to, whatever it is that you did, like, what was that where you could say, even if it was 20 minutes, what was it?
Yeah, I think, and I don't know why, like, was this way. Cause I don't think like this was really my parents' mantra towards like, separation of like work-life balance. But somehow in high school, I got into this rhythm of just like, seeking basketball or like athletics as therapy for, kind of like me time. Like I was able to kind of construe that as like a relaxation or like
your outlet. That was your outlet.
My outlet. Exactly. And so there were a lot of times where, you kind of like, I kind of just had to read myself and say like, I've got a test tomorrow and I could spend the next, hour and a half cramming for this test, but I'm really not that productive. I'm not retaining any information. Let me just go shoot around. Let me go to the gym and just
get out that nervous energy.
Exactly.
Throw the ball down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what any of that feels like. I'm the world's worst basketball player, but I get it. I understand how it works.
But if I remember correctly, you were a dunker at one point. So you had
yes. I had some ups, but the rest of the game just didn't work. Being 6'3" and riding a mountain bike really helped a lot, but the rest of the game didn't exist. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, I do. Now that you're saying that, like I do remember the outlet of sports as a kid. I was a pretty good tennis player. So for me, tennis was that thing, and I went out there and I did it myself. And that's what was great about it, because it was a single sport. You lost. Well, the only person you can point the finger at is yourself. Yeah. And you can go out there and, you could just sit there angrily and just hit the ball against the wall as hard as you can just to get out that frustration. Mm-hmm. And I could see how that athletic outlet, and especially for you, because eventually it worked out to you playing D3 ball at MIT. So here you are actually practicing for a goal. You're not just shooting hoops to say, okay, I need 20 minutes of Connor time. You're actually being productive to help out your sport, which ultimately led you to another arena of playing college basketball.
Yeah. And I'll say that's like, I think that was a happy coincidence. That was not.
It sounds like it.
That was,
which worked out pretty darn well.
that was planned. But I would say like, I don't know, if you are, in middle school, like early on in life, like kind of looking for hobbies and outlets, like, and you can like somehow link, and, if it's really something you love and you can link that to that kind of, that downtime, that release, that escape, like it's kind of like, it's you're getting like double the amount of time in pretty much, because
right.
Exactly. if you hate like playing piano and like it's just, it's like a chore to actually sit down and run your scales or whatever, that's not like being doubly beneficial. That's like just, I don't know, I guess like you're doing what is expected of you or what you want to do. But if through exploration, through trial and error, you can find something that's like, wow, like this is a good thing for me to do, and I also like doing it to the point that I'm like more relaxed doing it.
Yeah.
Then you're really like, you're making the most of your minutes.
I just have to say that's just incredible, and I wish more people fell into something the way you did, because the way you explained it is unbelievable. Here's something that you enjoy to do, you like to do, you want to do, and then doing it paid off for you personally. And that's amazing, because there are a lot of people out there that try, and it just doesn't work. But you said that important thing. It became fun for you. It was something you enjoyed to do. It wasn't like, oh, I got to shoot 42 free throws in a row so I can stop shooting free throws. You're like, Let's see. This is great. I'm having an awesome time because guess what? I don't have to study calculus. This is great. I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah.
So you turned what most people would say as a negative into a positive. It's like today I tell the kids, maybe you shouldn't say I have to study. Maybe you should turn it into a sports analogy and say I have to practice. Because studying just has this negative connotation, whereas practice is like, I'm trying to get better. I want to do better. So changing the vernacular and the term, the verbiage that you use may also, reformat the synapses in your mind and make you think in a different way. And you're like, oh, I'm not studying. I'm just practicing. I want to make sure that I'm ready for tomorrow, the quiz, the test, whatever, or just Mr. Proper's questions in class. I know what he's talking about. I can answer it. And saying that.
Yeah, perspective is everything, and this is like kind of goes back to another one of my notes that I had yesterday, in that, like, I feel like another part of perspective is like, what are the perspectives of the people around you, because that heavily informs like your perspectives.
That's huge. Go to town on this one. That is enormous. They need to hear this. Go.
Yeah, and I think something that like really allowed me to kind of like power through was, if I was doing something that like I enjoyed or I was good at, and then I like heard other people talking badly about that, like, oh, basketball practice sucks. Like,
right.
These are no fun. Or like, oh, this homework's like so hard. I just want to like gouge my eyes out. Like, if you don't feel that way and you hear other people like expressing those attitudes, I think you have to be okay with just saying like, hey, we got different views on it. Don't talk yourself into hating things a lot, because I feel like I saw a lot of people do that as well.
Some great advice. That's some really good advice.
It's just the thing to do to bash on Mr. Ivoli's like homework.
Right. And everyone wants to pile on. As soon as somebody says it, everyone else is on it.
It gets you like a quick little social win if you like give a little jab, but
right.
In the long term, it's not worth falling out of love with something.
Right. And then it's going to ruin your mindset. It's going to ruin the way you see things. And all of a sudden you go from, I enjoy doing this to, oh, well, everybody else hates it. I got to hate it too.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be. That's another great point. Yeah, that's amazing. Exactly. Because I think especially middle school teenagers, they're so afraid to rock the boat and so afraid to be different that they don't want to be like, well, you hate math, but I think it's awesome. I love it. It's easy for me. They don't want to be that kid, because now it's like, you love math? Like, what's wrong with you? What planet are you from? And because they just want to put each other down for the things that they're not good at or they don't like. And if you're good at it, you should be happy you're good at that. That's a positive. I try to promote girls all the time and tell them, look, there's engineering is the field now that they're trying to get women into. And I'm like, look, if you're good at math and science, do STEM, be good at math and science. Don't listen to people. They need women to do this. They're promoting this for women. It's so important. And if someone tells you no, just keep going until you find somebody that says yes. And it's just so many people, like you said, they get this bad seed put in their brain, and then it just turns into this awful vine and it strangles everything. Yeah. It's a horrible metaphor, but you see that's what happens, and again, I guess it's this amazing upbringing by mom and dad who allowed you to experience these things, mom at the early age with learning the alphabet and your dad guiding you in the direction that you want. And you were able to be a strong enough young man to say, yeah, no, I just don't agree with you. And you can have your opinion, as wrong as you may be, but you're not going to spoil mine. Just because I like it, you say it's bad, I'm supposed to go, oh, Johnny says it's bad, so it's got to be bad. And I want to be friends with Johnny.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of kids who are too afraid to stand up to Johnny, whoever he may be, because now he's making fun of you or it becomes a problem. But that just shows the intestinal fortitude that Connor has and the type of person that he is. And he's a perseverer, if that's a word. He perseveres. Yeah, I'm not the English teacher. So he definitely is doing what he thinks is right, which is so commendable, because a lot of people succumb to, like you said earlier, that peer pressure, which is so hard at any age, only until maybe you're in your 40s or 50s, like this old man, can you just finally say, yeah, peer pressure, whatever. I'm an adult. I'm married. I have my own life. I'm doing whatever I want. But when you're young, you don't want to be the person doing something that nobody else is doing. That's an amazing point.
Yeah.
So
I will say, like, just on the point of like how commendable it all was. Like there were definitely times where, I went against the advice that I'm giving now, and I wished I hadn't.
Hindsight's 2020.
Nasty things said, things I like gave up on too early. Drama and theater being one of those. I wish I did
You didn't
drama
do it.
through middle school. I wish I kept with it in high school. I wish that's like something I didn't let people's perceptions.
I hate to have to burst your bubble, dude, but you live in New York City. There's a theater around every corner. You can always go back.
This is true.
You don't have to be, Bradley Cooper, the actor, but you can still go out there and just for fun do, summer theater or just something that keeps you happy. And that's, I always try to tell people that the dream is always alive. It never dies. You're going to find time. You're going to find the bug. You're going to find a person who's going to say, hey, have you ever acted before? We need somebody for this. And you're going to be like, I'm all over that.
Yeah.
So the doors never close. So please don't feel that way. I understand what you're talking about. Trust me, I've let a lot of things go in my life where I'm like, why did I do that? But there's always a time when it can come back. So please remember that part, that you're still young and there's still time to do it. And again, you're in New York City. This could happen tomorrow. Like something could happen out of the blue because who knows?
This is true. I'll be just hanging out off Broadway a bunch, asking important looking people for
exactly. Oh my God, we need an extra for this. I've done this before. Oh yeah, come on. I don't care. We just need somebody. And before you know it, who knows what it turns into? And that's a lot of things. People fall into things all the time. I was talking to a former student who's an actress in California, and it reminded me of the actor Ken Jeong. He was a doctor, and then he decided in his late 30s, early 40s, I want to be an actor. And his wife was like, okay, go ahead. And if it doesn't work out, you can go back to be a doctor. Well, obviously it worked out. So there's no life plan. Did you ever see the show on Netflix called The Kaminsky Method? Excuse me?
No.
Okay, it's about this guy who's an acting teacher, and he had one big, great gig in the beginning of his career, and then it never happened again. And then later in his career, like way later, like he's an old man, it finally happened again, and he never gave up. And that's basically the premise of the show. Yeah. Like you said, you just don't give up. You keep going no matter what. It's your dream. But again, it's your dream, but it's not necessarily, like I said, you're not Bradley Cooper in A Star Is Born, but you know what? You're in an off-Broadway production of Hamlet or whatever. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And it's always available to you. There's theater. It doesn't matter where you live, whether it's Austin, Texas, whether it's New York City, whether it's Boca Raton, as people love to say. There's always something to do. And as long as it's still percolating in your brain, it's never going to go away. You just got to keep that little flame going.
Totally. And I say that just to kind of like for the kid, like for a kid that's maybe listening to this and, maybe found themselves like tapping out of something too early. Like, it's not, that doesn't define who you are. If there is, because like I said, I've quit things too early that I wish I didn't, but you also don't let that define you. And you go to the next pursuit and you go to the next thing and maybe you have more success there.
Nothing is a failure if you learn something from it.
Yeah, totally.
That's amazing. So now that you've been so far removed from Don Estridge, was there something that you learned in middle school that, like you said, you wish that you had known when you were there? So you got to high school and you were like, oh man, I really wish I had that little nugget of knowledge in middle school. Was there something that you figured out once you left that high school was like, I didn't know that at the Don, but now I do, and I really wish I did?
Yeah, I think, and maybe this didn't, like, I don't know if this became apparent until college, really. But I met so many people that were so cool because they did things in middle school that I remember thinking were so not cool. Like one of my really good friends is like a chess whiz, and like now chess is the talk of the town. Like,
the Queen's Gambit.
Chess.com. Like,
it's huge. It's huge.
All sorts of subscriptions.
Now it's cool to be smart all of a sudden. Like, when did that go out of style? It's always cool, but
exactly,
chess wasn't right.
Yeah, just meeting people like that were like, they were just cool people, and they did things that I wish I had just gotten into early in middle school. I wish I I wish I joined, I wish I had a semester, a year of band class in middle school. And I picked up an instrument because I met so many people that played instruments, and that seemed like such a fulfilling part of their lives because they played it since middle school. I wish I'd, taken that. Was it Mr. Stansel that does the film production?
Yes.
Class. I wish I'd taken, like, time's only so much, but I wish I'd taken a semester of film production and live broadcasting with him.
Wow.
I would say, like, really, really explore those things. Like, that's because those are the things that, you get into in a school program, and it sets you up for a future of being in film production or playing an instrument or,
I was surprised about the instrument since you're such a good math student, because to me, it took me forever to finally realize that, music is just math. And if you're good at math, music is just another language that you can unlock with your math skills. So I was shocked that you didn't play an instrument. Like, that to me was like, wow, really? This kid's so good at math. I would think, oh, music, it's more math. I'm down with that.
Yeah, no, it has kind of like come into my life later on. Like, I started playing guitar about 3 years ago, but it was a very rocky path because I didn't have free lessons at school every day, and
right,
equipment wasn't provided to me, and those are the type of, like, amazing opportunities that a place like Don Estridge is literally just giving you the keys to.
Right, you just got to take it,
and you just got to reach out of. Who's the principal now? Is it Kate Wetzel or whoever's the principal?
No, we just actually got a new one, Mr. David Dow. They just keep, every 4 years, we keep getting a new principal.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. David Dappo and the whole staff and the whole teaching staff, that key is out in front of you, and that outstretched palm, you just gotta grab it.
That's amazing. Well, you needed to, unfortunately, you needed to go through the tribes and tribulations of your life before you can look back at it and go, wow, I really wish. But the positive is, like you said, you're doing it now. You didn't give up. You didn't go, oh yeah, you know what? I can't learn an instrument. I don't have time for that. That's so kid. I don't want, it's a waste of my time. And I just, it's done. It's passed me by. And that's what's amazing. It's like, it's good to hear that you've stuck with it and you found a passion even at this point in your life. And just like anything else in life, you find passions, whether it's continuing to do something your whole life or picking up something new that continues forward after that. That's pretty incredible. What would you say that you appreciate most now that maybe was something that you either didn't give credence or credit to, or maybe you didn't even realize? Like, there's just something now you're like, wow, I'm really thankful for this, but I didn't even think about it or know about it or understand it perhaps when you were a kid. Is there something?
Yeah. I think the thing that's top of mind now, living a 3-hour flight from, like, my nuclear family, is how valuable that time is. And as, like, a middle school student, like, your whole life so far has probably been with a nuclear family or like a caregiver, and
or a blended family. If parents have gotten divorced, then you have new brothers and sisters.
Yeah, my parents were divorced, was definitely in the blended family category.
Sure.
And so I think that time is taken for granted. And in middle school, so many times I was like, I'm too cool for this. I don't.
Who wants to hang out with these old farts?
Bring my sister who's 3 years younger than me to the mall. He made me anyway.
Right.
But
we don't get along. Why am I hanging out with this girl?
Yeah, but I wish I had such a different attitude on that.
But that's part of growing up. That's maturity. It's easy to say that, but again, that's what shows your growth as a person. That's what shows that you're a good person, that you lament, you go back and look at those things and go, yeah, if I could, I would have. And I'm apologetic. And now I'm sure your sister wants to do something with you. You're not like, yeah, I'm too busy. You're like, okay, let's go. Because I want to make up for lost time. I want to show you I love you. I care about you. And you're an important person in my life. Yeah, maybe back then I didn't see it that way because, I was your older brother and you were my younger pain in the behind. But now we're closer in age. We understand things better. And is it just you and her? Is there another one, or is it just you two?
So it's me, my sister, and then my younger brother is a year and a half younger.
Okay, so you have there's three of you, and you have two siblings, which is great because I only have one, and when I'm mad at him, there's no one else to talk to. So if you're mad at one, you can always talk to the other one. And
Yeah.
but that's how it is, like you just go through these life cycles where, as a kid, my brother didn't want to have anything to do with me. He just was like, go away. And then as an adult, he lives in Boca now. And, I talk to him all the time, and our friendship is great. And I rely on him for so much, and him for me as well. And, it's just the cycle of how life goes, and you're realizing it because you're getting older, and, you're realizing this is my family. And, reality is parents aren't around forever. And you want to have a good relationship with your siblings because you want to, like you said, that nuclear family. You want to be part of their lives when they get married. They have kids. They have families. The same with you. It's all an interaction experience.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I think I've got, like you said, I've got great relationships with all my family now. But just for the middle schooler listening to this, like family dinner tonight or the next time you guys go out, like, just pause and I guess appreciate that for what it is, because eventually one day your parents might have a similar conversation as my dad had with me, and he kind of like at dinner one day was like, wow, this is gonna be the last time you're gonna like live under this roof, and that was before I like moved to New York full time. And
reality shocker.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that not to be all morbid and dreary, but
downtrodden.
Yeah, no, but it's really cool to be close with your family, as uncool as it may look now.
Right. That's it. Your perspective changes, but it's important because these are the people that love you, and come, push comes to shove. These are the people that are going to stand up for you. Our friends. Yeah, they're our friends, but are they always going to be there in every single time like your parents? I hate to say, probably not. But your parents, they're always going to be there. They're always going to love you no matter what it is you do. They're always going to be there for you. And the fact that you notice that is at this young age is tremendous. That's incredible. You were just such a mature young man for
stop it.
Almost 24.
Making plenty of dumb decisions to be made.
Yeah, that's life. We all make stupid decisions, and we don't harp on those. But from what it is that you're saying, you're very intuitive, and you have a lot of good things to say to the kids. So after you've just dropped all this crazy knowledge, I just have one further question. Do you remember who Don Estridge actually was?
Don Estridge. Might he have been a member of the IBM team that was once stationed at Don Estridge Middle School?
Ding, ding, ding. Correct. What has he won? No, not the laugh. I don't even know my own stuff.
Oh,
there it is.
There's you have a soundboard? That's awesome.
I have a soundboard. Yes, I do. So I have the claps for Connor, and I'm so bad at the soundboard. I gave the ha-ha-has, but he got it right. So claps. Don Estridge is the father of the personal computer, which was invented at Don Estridge High-Tech Middle School when it was a secret IBM facility. Connor, what has he won? A life supply of? I have no idea. I'm not giving away prizes. So, Connor Bradley, I cannot thank you enough for coming on my podcast, talking about your life, your successes, and hopefully reaching some children with the knowledge that you dropped about how hard it is, how you can persevere, how you can overcome, and most importantly, how you've become a successful person. And I cannot thank you enough for coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Proper. I think this is just a phenomenal resource that you're assembling for your kids. I mean, you've always been just a phenomenal teacher. Looking back, like I think the only teacher that I even above Mr. Wiles, the only teacher that I'm
what? I am placed above Mr. Oh my God. Now you're just going way too far. Way too far. Come on. He's surfing. Oh man. Now I'm turning red. Connor, you got it. That's amazing. Thank you so much. That is a wonderful compliment. I appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course.